Think the Academy knows sci-fi? Think again. While mainstream blockbusters occasionally get technical nods, the truly mind-bending gems are routinely ignored. Ever wonder why a film that predicts our future or reimagines our reality gets less Oscar love than a period drama about royalty having tea? Let's explore the forgotten masterpieces that deserved gold but got nothing but dust. Primer, 2004. Ever seen a $7,000 film that makes Inception look straightforward? Primer is the micro-budget time travel masterpiece that'll melt your brain faster than a particle accelerator. Engineer-turned-director Shane Carruth didn't just make a movie, he created a temporal puzzle box so complex that fans still debate its timeline nearly 2 decades later. This isn't your Back to the Future time travel. It's messy, dangerous, and morally corrosive. The story follows 2 engineers who accidentally discover time travel while working on a superconductor project in their garage. What begins as scientific curiosity spirals into a paranoid web of multiple timelines and duplicate selves. The dialogue is dense with technical jargon, delivered at breakneck speed, without exposition. Critics called it the most honest and compelling film about science ever made. The film won Sundance's Grand Jury Prize, but couldn't even score a technical nomination from the Academy. The production was so bare bones that Carruth served as director, writer, star, editor, producer, and composer. The script contains mathematical equations that actually work. When viewers started creating intricate timeline diagrams to understand the plot, Carruth admitted even he sometimes got lost in his own creation. Which other film turns viewers into amateur physicists, scribbling timelines on napkins at 3 a.m.? The Academy clearly couldn't handle the temporal paradox. Dark City, 1998. Before Neo took the red pill, John Murdoch woke up in a city where reality twisted every midnight. Dark City arrived a year before The Matrix and invented half its tricks. Yet while The Matrix cleaned up at the Oscars, this neo-noir masterpiece got completely snubbed. Director Alex Proyas created a perpetually nighttime metropolis controlled by pale, telepathic aliens called the Strangers, who reconfigure the city nightly and implant new memories into unsuspecting humans. Our hero awakens with amnesia and murder charges, only to discover he possesses the same reality-warping powers as his captors. The film's production design is a fever dream of German expressionism meets film noir, with buildings that physically transform and memories that shift like quicksand. Roger Ebert called it one of the great modern films, and later added it to his great movies collection. Yet the Academy couldn't spare a single nomination, not even for its revolutionary visual effects or Kafka on acid production design. The studio butchered the theatrical release with an explanatory voiceover that Proyas hated, fearing audiences couldn't handle the mystery. The director's cut restored his vision, creating a cult following that's only grown more devoted with time. When The Matrix exploded a year later, with similar philosophical themes and visual tricks, Dark City fans could only watch in frustration, as the newer film collected 4 Academy Awards, while their beloved Mindbender collected dust. Gattaca, 1997. In an era when CRISPR and designer babies were science fiction instead of science journals, Gattaca arrived with a chilling warning. This gorgeously crafted dystopia predicted our genetic future with such eerie accuracy that scientists now call certain ethical dilemmas Gattaca scenarios. Yet the Academy didn't deem it worthy of a single nomination. Set in a not-too-distant future, the film follows Vincent Freeman, a naturally conceived invalid in a world of genetically engineered valids. Determined to become an astronaut despite his inferior DNA, he purchases the genetic identity of a paralyzed former athlete to infiltrate the elite Gattaca Aerospace Corporation. Director Andrew Nicole created a retro-future aesthetic that's both timeless and distinctive. The film's meticulous attention to detail includes a scene where Ethan Hawke's character must daily vacuum every loose hair and skin cell from his workspace to avoid genetic detection. Uma Thurman's character is named Irene Cassini, after the actual Cassini space probe that launched the same week the film premiered. Critics praised its intelligent approach to bioethics and stunning minimalist design. The film later landed on multiple best sci-fi films ever lists, with NASA naming it the most scientifically plausible science fiction film ever made. The Academy's snub stings worse with each passing year as genetic technology catches up to Nichols' vision. While forgettable biopics took home statues, this prescient masterpiece that literally predicted our future couldn't even score a Best Original Screenplay nomination. Coherence, 2013. What happens when reality fractures over dinner? Coherence answers this question with a $50,000 budget and no script. This micro-budget quantum physics nightmare proves you don't need Marvel money to melt minds. Just a comet, a dinner party, and alternate realities bleeding together like watercolors in rain. The setup is deceptively simple. 8 friends gather for dinner as a comet passes overhead. When the power goes out, they discover the comet has somehow created a quantum superposition with multiple versions of their house and themselves existing simultaneously. Paradise turns to paranoia as no one knows which reality they belong to anymore. Director James Ward Byrkit shot the film over 5 nights in his own living room. Instead of a script, actors received daily note cards with basic direction. The rest was improvised, creating natural reactions as the chaos unfolded. The dinner table conversations feel eerily real because the actors genuinely didn't know what would happen next. Critics raved about its ingenious use of minimal resources and complex scientific concepts. IndieWire called it one of the most tightly focused and sharply executed sci-fi films in recent memory. The film spawned countless YouTube explainer videos as viewers attempted to map out its quantum timeline. While Hollywood handed out gold statues to CGI spectacles, this DIY masterpiece that turned quantum physics into psychological horror couldn't even get into the conversation. Perhaps in an alternate reality, the Academy actually recognizes innovation over budgets. The Man Who Fell to Earth, 1976. Before he conquered space as Ziggy Stardust, David Bowie actually fell from it. Director Nicholas Roeg's hypnotic sci-fi masterpiece cast the iconic musician as an alien who comes to Earth seeking water for his dying planet, only to become corrupted by human vices and corporate America. The Academy, in its infinite wisdom, decided this groundbreaking film deserved exactly 0 nominations. This isn't just a rock star playing dress-up. Bowie delivers a performance of alien detachment so convincing that co-stars reported feeling genuinely unsettled during filming. His character, Thomas Jerome Newton, creates world-changing technologies to fund his mission, but becomes trapped in an addiction spiral of alcohol, television, and earthly pleasures. The film's fragmented narrative and explicit content shocked 1976 audiences. The original US release was heavily edited, removing much of the film's nudity and social commentary. The uncut version wasn't available in America until 1994, by which time its predictions about media oversaturation and corporate control seemed almost prophetic. Critics were divided upon release, with some calling it pretentious while others hailed it as visionary. Roger Ebert wrote that it contained elements of greatness, though he found it ultimately unsatisfying. Time has vindicated Roeg's vision, with modern critics ranking it among the most important science fiction films ever made. While Star Wars would soon redefine sci-fi as space adventure, The Man Who Fell to Earth represented something more challenging, a meditation on alienation, using science fiction as metaphor. Apparently, that was too much for Oscar voters to comprehend. A Scanner Darkly, 2006. What happens when you adapt Philip K. Dick's most autobiographical novel about drug addiction and surveillance states, animate it using rotoscoping technology that makes reality itself seem unstable, and cast Keanu Reeves, Robert Downey Jr., and Woody Harrelson? You get a mind-bending masterpiece that the Academy completely ignored, A Scanner. Darkly follows undercover agent Bob Arctor, who becomes addicted to the same drug he's investigating, Substance D, which gradually splits the user's brain hemispheres, creating dual identities. The twist? Arctor doesn't realize that the dealer he's hunting is actually himself. Director Richard Linklater and his team shot the film digitally, then spent 18 months hand animating over 1.3 million frames using interpolated rotoscoping. The technique creates a hallucinatory visual style perfectly matching the protagonist's fractured perception. Each minute of finished animation required over 500 hours of work. Critics praised its faithful adaptation of Dick's themes and innovative visual approach. The film's scramble suit, a constantly shifting identity disguise, became an iconic sci-fi image. Yet come Oscar season, it wasn't even considered for Best Animated Feature, despite being one of the most technically ambitious animated films ever made. The film's production was complicated by Robert Downey Jr.'s own history with substance abuse, which he channeled into his performance as the manic addict Barris. Downey later said the role helped him process his past struggles, making the Academy's snub even more ironic. They love addiction stories and dramas, but apparently not when wrapped in animated sci-fi. They Live, 1988. Imagine discovering special sunglasses that reveal aliens have been controlling humanity through subliminal messages in advertising and media. John Carpenter's cult classic They Live delivered this premise with a 5.5-minute fight scene, the immortal line, "I've come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum," and a scathing critique of Reagan-era capitalism that was too hot for the Academy to handle. Professional wrestler Rowdy Roddy Piper stars as a drifter who stumbles upon a resistance movement against disguised aliens who use advertising to control human consumption and behavior. When he puts on special sunglasses, he sees the hidden messages behind advertisements: OBEYCONSUME-STAYASLEEP. The film's signature alley fight scene between Piper and Keith David was choreographed by the actors themselves and shot over 3 days. What was scripted as a 20-second scuffle evolved into an epic brawl that Carpenter loved so much he kept it all. Critics initially dismissed the film as B-movie schlock, but its reputation has grown steadily, with many now recognizing its ahead-of-its-time critique of media manipulation. The black and white world revealed by the sunglasses became an enduring cultural meme, referenced everywhere from street art to social media commentary on advertising. Carpenter made the film as a deliberate response to Reaganomics and increasing commercialization, later stating, "The 80s were about greed, the yuppies and unrestrained capitalism. I made They Live as a response to that." While the Academy handed out statues to safer fare, this prescient satire that predicted our advertising-saturated reality couldn't even score a nomination for its groundbreaking visual commentary. Sunshine, 2007. Before he won an Oscar for Slumdog Millionaire, Danny Boyle crafted a visually stunning space thriller about a mission to reignite our dying sun, and the Academy responded with the cold silence of deep space. Sunshine combines hard sci-fi concepts with psychological horror, creating a genre-bending experience that was too ambitious for Oscar voters to comprehend. The story follows 8 astronauts on a desperate mission to deliver a nuclear payload into our fading sun. As they approach their target, they receive a distress signal from the previous failed mission and make a fateful decision to investigate, leading to a cascade of disasters, both technical and psychological. Boyle consulted with CERN physicists and NASA to create a scientifically plausible premise and spacecraft. The film's stunning visual effects, particularly its representations of the sun, set new standards for cosmic imagery. To prepare the cast for the psychological pressures of space travel, Boyle had them live together in a student dormitory and trained with real astronauts. Critics praised its first 2 acts, while debating its controversial third-act shift into horror territory. Roger Ebert called it a beautiful, terrible, and, in many ways, profoundly religious film. Yet, come Oscar season, even its groundbreaking visual effects couldn't score a nomination. The production was so intense that cinematographer Alwyn Kukler suffered permanent eye damage from filming the blindingly bright sun sequences. The film's soundtrack by John Murphy and Underworld became unexpectedly influential, with the track Adagio in D minor later appearing in countless trailers and commercials. While forgettable historical dramas collected gold statues, this visionary exploration of humanity's relationship with its life-giving star was left floating in the void of Oscar indifference. Videodrome, 1983. Long live the new flesh. David Cronenberg's prophetic media nightmare predicted our screen addiction and virtual reality obsessions decades before smartphones glued themselves to our palms. Yet the Academy couldn't see past the body horror to recognize one of the most prescient films ever made about technology's psychological impact. James Woods stars as Max Wren, a sleazy cable TV programmer who discovers a mysterious broadcast signal called Videodrome, showing extreme violence and torture. His investigation leads to a conspiracy involving mind control, hallucinations, and a new evolution of humanity through media, the new flesh. The film's practical effects by Rick Baker created some of cinema's most disturbing and memorable images: a television that breathes and pulsates, a stomach that transforms into a VCR slot, and a hand that fuses with a gun. These surreal bodily transformations serve Cronenberg's thesis that media literally changes our physical being. Critics were initially divided, with some dismissing it as exploitation, while others recognized its visionary qualities. Roger Ebert wrote that it's fascinating how Cronenberg's films seem to grow in stature over the years, a statement that has proven especially true for Videodrome, now considered one of the most important science fiction films of the 1980s. The film's exploration of how media manipulates reality anticipated everything from reality television to internet echo chambers. Cronenberg later remarked, "I think of Videodrome as a very serious documentary, highlighting how his seemingly outlandish predictions about media's psychological effects have largely come true." While the Academy handed statues to now-forgotten fare, this visionary film that predicted our media-warped reality couldn't even score a special effects nomination. Predestination, 2014. Time travel paradoxes don't get more mind-bending than this. Based on Robert A. Heinlein's short story, All You Zombies, this Australian sci-fi thriller creates the ultimate closed time loop, where every character is the same person at different points in their life. The Academy, predictably, couldn't wrap their heads around its brilliant complexity. Ethan Hawke stars as a temporal agent on his final mission to stop the elusive Fizzle Bomber terrorist. His journey involves recruiting a mysterious writer with an incredible life story involving gender reassignment, space program rejection, and heartbreak. As the plot unfolds, we realize everyone in the story is the same person at different points in a complex time loop. The film's non-linear narrative is a masterclass in puzzle box storytelling, with directors the Spierig brothers meticulously constructing a plot where every detail matters. Sarah Snook delivers a tour-de-force performance, playing both male and female versions of her character across different ages, the kind of challenging dual role that typically attracts Oscar attention in more conventional films. Critics praised its mind-bending plot and emotional depth, with The Guardian calling it the thinking person's looper. The film's complex timeline spawned endless online discussions, with viewers creating elaborate diagrams to map out its circular causality. While big-budget sci-fi spectacles grabbed technical Oscar nominations, this ingenious time travel masterpiece that turned paradox into poetry couldn't even get a screenplay nod. Perhaps in another timeline, the Academy actually recognizes intelligent science fiction instead of treating the genre as mere technical showcase. Metropolis, 1927. Before Star Wars, before Blade Runner, before every dystopian